Hey everyone, welcome back to Daily Life XYZ, where we break down the wild world of global trade without the jargon overload. Today, we're diving into a story that's got politicians fuming, businesses sweating, and social media exploding. Picture this: a simple TV ad airs in the US, quoting a Republican icon against tariffs. Hours later, the President of the United States pulls the plug on trade talks with America's closest neighbor. Is this the spark that ignited a full-blown trade meltdown between Canada and the US? Or is it just the excuse everyone needed to walk away? Stick around as we unpack the ad, the backlash, the backstory, and what it means for your wallet. If you're into economics that actually feels like a thriller, hit that like button now and subscribe for more. Let's jump in. Before we get to the ad drama, let's rewind a bit. It's 2025 and US-Canada trade relations are already on thin ice. Back in the spring, the Trump administration slapped 25% tariffs on key Canadian exports like steel, aluminum, timber, and even cars. Why? The official line was national security and unfair trade practices, but critics called it payback for Canada's dairy protections under the USMCA. You know, that North American trade deal Trump himself renegotiated back in his first term. Canada fired back with retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods like whiskey and ketchup. Yeah, ketchup, because nothing says trade war like condiment chaos. By August, Trump cranked the dial to 35% on those Canadian imports. Factories in Ontario and Michigan started feeling the pinch. Auto parts that crossed the border 8 to 10 times before becoming a finished car suddenly cost a fortune. Talks to fix this mess were dragging on, with a big USMCA review deadline looming in July 2026. And get this, the U.S. Supreme Court is set to rule on November 5th, just days away, on whether Trump even has the authority to impose these sweeping tariffs without Congress. Tensions? Sky high. But no one saw this coming. Enter Ontario Premier Doug Ford. Yeah, the guy who once compared lockdowns to living under Mao. This week, his government drops a $1 million ad campaign targeting U.S. battleground states. It's a slick 1-minute spot airing on cable news and YouTube, featuring none other than Ronald Reagan, the Jipper himself, from a 1987 radio address. Here's the killer hook. The ad lets Reagan do the talking. Unedited clips, straight from public domain archives. He says, "When someone says, 'Let's impose tariffs on foreign imports,' it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. But over the long run, such trade barriers hurt every American worker and consumer. It ramps up. High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation, trade wars. Markets shrink and collapse. Businesses shut down, and millions lose their jobs. And the mic drop closer, America's jobs and growth are at stake." Ford's team calls it a friendly reminder that free trade built the booming 80s under Reagan. They even posted a full 5-minute excerpt on X to prove it's no deepfake. Ontario's economy relies on that border. Think Windsor-Detroit auto corridor, pumping out 500,000 vehicles a year. This ad? It's their Hail Mary to sway American voters and lawmakers before the tariffs crush them. But Reagan's words? They're real. Pulled verbatim from that '87 speech where he was warning against the Smoot-Hawley tariffs that deepened the Great Depression. Ford's office swears it's unedited, just cherry-picked for punch. Genius marketing? Or poking the bear? Was the ad fair play? Let me know in the comments, yes or no. Fast forward to Thursday night. Donald Trump, fresh off Truth Social, unleashes. They fraudulently took a big by ad saying that Ronald Reagan did not like tariffs, when actually he loved tariffs for our country. Based on their egregious behavior, all trade negotiations with Canada are hereby terminated. Whoa. From ad critique to deal breaker in one rant. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio backs him up Friday morning, calling the spot out of context and confirming the freeze. The Reagan Foundation piles on, tweeting that the ad misrepresents the speech, was edited without permission, and they're eyeing legal action. They link to the full YouTube clip, urging folks to watch the whole thing. Turns out the full address does have nuance. Reagan admits he just imposed tariffs on Japanese semiconductors for unfair practices, a special case to enforce fair trade. He says presidents need tools like that for national security. So, is the ad a gotcha edit? Kinda. But Trump claiming Reagan loved tariffs? That's like saying the guy who ended the Cold War was a communist sympathizer. Reagan was Mr. Free Trade. He slashed barriers worldwide. This feels personal. And the reactions on X? It's a mix of laughing emojis at MAGA meltdowns, clips of Ford's clapback, and Democratic lawmakers tweeting. This ad used Reagan's own words. So, is this ad the villain that tanked the talks? Let's break it down like a border bridge. First, the case for blame. Timing suspect. Talks were inching forward on steel quotas and auto exemptions. The ad hits U.S. airwaves right before midterm lobbying ramps up. Critics on X call it foreign interference, Ontario spending Canadian tax dollars to sway American opinion, especially with the Supreme Court tariff case looming. One post I saw nailed it. It's not harmless spin. It's editing out Reagan's caveat on presidential power. And Trump? He's made this threat 3 times this year alone. This ad gave him the perfect scapegoat to save face. But hold up, experts say nah. Chris Sands from Johns Hopkins calls it formalizing a dead end. Talks were stalled anyway. No breakthroughs on dairy or energy. Canada's PM Mark Carney was blindsided but told reporters Friday he's open to resuming. Code for this was coming. Ford? He clapped back on X. Canada and the US are friends. Reagan knew we're stronger together. Even US Democrats are cheering the ad. Unlike Trump's AI slop, this is real Reagan. My take? The ad was a bold swing. Maybe too bold, but it's the symptom, not the disease. Trump's protectionism is the real tariff on friendship here. Remember, 80% of Canadian exports go south. US gets cheap resources in return. This freeze? It's theater masking deeper rifts. On the pro side, the ad highlights real risks of trade wars and forces a debate on history. On the con, it edits out context and escalates tensions unnecessarily. Zoom out to the ripple effects. What happens next? If USMCA isn't renewed by 26, bam, full tariffs on everything. Canadian consumers pay more for US tech. Americans shell out for pricier lumber and cars. Ontario's auto sector could lose 50,000 jobs. Michigan's not far behind. Supply chains? Disrupted like a bad Black Friday rush. Carney's budget next week eyes diversifying away from the US hello, EU deals. And globally? This emboldens China's tariff dodges and weakens North America's edge against rivals. Businesses, start hedging now, or stock up on maple syrup futures. What do you think? Blame the ad or bigger issues? Comment below. Phew, from Reagan's ghosts to trade ghosts, this saga's got more twists than a Detroit assembly line. The anti-tariff ad? It poked the hornet's nest, sure, but the breakdown was brewing long before. Free trade isn't perfect, but tariffs? They're the tax no one votes for. What say you? Is Ontario's move savvy or suicidal? Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like if this cleared up the chaos, and subscribe for updates as this unfolds. Next week, how AI is remixing elections. Thanks for watching. Stay informed, stay connected. Peace.